the InnovaBuzz podcast, helping smart businesses be even more innovative.
Hi, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz. Welcome to episode number 68 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, designed to help smart businesses with an interest in innovation become even more innovative. Facebook Live is on my desktop feed. I'm really excited. Yes, that's right. I can now do Facebook Live streaming, video streaming from my desktop using my high-quality desktop webcam. So some people have had this on their feeds for a little while, and I've been quite envious of them because it hasn't popped up on my feed, and I've been missing it, and we've had some workarounds to do Facebook Live from the desktop. However, yesterday when I went to post something on Facebook, I saw this little Facebook Live button. So I'm really excited now. I can do Facebook Live directly from my desktop. I don't have to use the laptop I don't have to use the phone. I don't have to use an inferior camera, and I don't have to go through third-party software. So look out for quite a few Facebook Lives from me going forward. We'll probably do lots of short ones, and we might get back to doing live podcasts as well. So yes, I'm really excited. Now, of course, it's been another busy week here at the InnovaBuzz Hive with a lot of webinars and special lead-up events for our Best Year Yet event in May. So the excitement the excitement is really building there for all of us. I've mentioned this before, of course, the Best Year Yet event for business owners that aspire to a first fast mastery and also being leaders in their industry. So this is at the end of May, just 8 weeks away in a wonderful tropical island paradise. So a retreat from the everyday grind of business. And we're going to work with the participants to really turbocharge their business going forward. So I'll mention that again at the end of the podcast. So I want to talk about content marketing today. Now, if you've been following my podcast and reading my blog, you'll know that I've spoken a lot about content marketing, and you'll know that I'm convinced it works. All over the internet, you can find people talking about content marketing and why it works. They talk about building trust. They talk about driving engagement, about creating awareness, and other things. Now, these are all important aspects of content marketing, but in my mind, they're essentially side effects of the main purpose. In my view, the main purpose of content marketing is to provide exceptionally useful information to your target audience and being as helpful as you possibly can without any expectation of something in return. It's about being of service to your audience. Now, I was speaking to someone this morning on my podcast, and they talked about paying it forward. So content marketing, in my mind, is about paying it forward. So if you're in content marketing and you're looking for a quick result, you're looking for quick sales as a result, then you're in it for the wrong reason and you're likely to fail. Now, of course, by being really helpful with exceptionally valuable information, you do drive engagement, you do create awareness, you do build trust, and ultimately you will generate leads and sales. Ideally, you'll become recognized as the key person and trusted advisor in your particular area of expertise. To develop this relationship, we do need to ensure that our communication matches with our customers' needs and addresses their fears, their frustrations, their wants, and their aspirations. So content marketing is really providing exceptionally useful information for your target audience, communicating effectively with them in a way that they find exceptionally useful and without expecting anything in return. I'd really like to see the term content marketing replaced by, information marketing maybe, as I believe it better captures the true process. And people hear content marketing and they're sometimes scared because they think it means writing a lot of stuff. They're sometimes confused. What is it? all about. And I think if we coin the phrase information marketing or providing information to your target audience, that, to me at least, suggests something that's much easier for everybody to understand. Now, what constitutes what I call exceptionally useful information? Now, I was reading something by Simon Thompson at Content Kite this week, and he puts it really well. He talks about the 7 elements of great content. To qualify as great content according to Simon, it must be relevant, it must be educational, it must be entertaining, it must be shareable, it must be consistent, and it must be measured, and it must convert. Now, I'd add to that list, in fact, I'd put kind of an umbrella thing over the top of that list by Simon, and that would be communication. Communication is so important, and if we communicate well, then we can probably get to the stage of having something that's always relevant, always educational, always entertaining, always shareable, always consistent, and measuring, of course, is a little bit outside the communication realm, but conversion comes from communication as well. Now, if you think about it, we all take information in from the outside world through our 5 senses. What we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we smell, and what we taste. So to present our information in a way that effectively communicates with our target audience, we need to engage all their senses as we present the information to them. We also need to be aware of individual communication preferences. So we don't use the 5 senses equally. We all have a preference for one or two over the others. For example, some people prefer to see things, and for those, you'd present information in a visual manner using photographs, pictures, diagrams, and video. Others prefer to hear things, so they're going to lap up this podcast, right? Others prefer to absorb information by doing things. So they're the type of people, like me, that bypass the user manuals of new devices, don't even unwrap the user manual, and just unwrap the device and get right into it, not knowing what they're doing. And they learn by doing it. And others are more analytical in their communication. And for those of you out there that fit this category, you'll no doubt be wondering now about how to incorporate the senses of smell and taste into presenting information, particularly, for example, in a blog post or an online communication. Now, this is where clever use of language comes in. So if I say to you, imagine walking into your home and smelling the smell of the freshly baked bread wafting out from the kitchen oven. And imagine taking that bread out of the oven, cutting a thin slice of the still warm loaf and putting it in your mouth, putting it on your tongue, and feel it on your tongue as it just melts, leaving that familiar and delightful taste of oven fresh bread in your mouth and this aroma penetrating every pore of your skin. Could you smell and taste the bread even though you're just listening to me on a podcast? Next time you watch television, take a look at some of the advertisements from this particular aspect. Some of them do this really well, and it's about communicating with your ideal audience. So understanding your target audience and their communication style is really important to deliver them exceptionally useful information. On the topic of relevance, which Simon listed as first in his 7 elements, and I'm not sure they are in order of importance, but on the topic of relevance, the key question that needs to be asked is the content written for the right audience, and does it address their information needs? All right, I know that's 2 questions. I guess I'm taking some liberties. It is my podcast. So that, of course, brings us back to the fundamental question of knowing who our target audience is and really understanding their needs, and how we can help them. If we provide information to the wrong audience, it's unlikely that it's going to be useful, and it's even less likely that it's going to result down the track in a sale or even in any sort of relationship at all. So a couple of weeks ago, I did a podcast on the myth of being number one on Google and all the SEO industry. And one of the big shortcomings of the whole myth around being number one on Google is that usually they don't begin with understanding who the audience is and reaching the ideal audience. It's simply about getting to number one for whatever term that they might like. So it's not about understanding the audience or serving their audience or providing exceptionally useful information. So really, the fundamental question of knowing who the target audience is and understanding their needs and how we can help is where we should be starting. A very powerful tool to develop a better understanding of your ideal audience and for whom the information that you have will in fact be exceptionally useful is to develop an audience or an ideal customer profile. This profile is actually a picture of your ideal customer together with an outline of their characteristics, their behaviours, their fears, their frustrations, their wants and aspirations. Now, at the end of this blog post that accompanies the podcast episode, we'll give you a template to put together your own ideal audience or ideal customer profile. For now, let me tell you about one of my ideal clients. We run regular training workshops for business owners to get the best results from their websites. And my ideal client profile for one of these workshops is based on a fictitious lady, hard to say, who I've called Tabea. Now, I've chosen an image from a free photo directory to represent Tabea. So when I see that image, I think of Tabea, or when I think of Tabea, I see that image in my mind, and it then conjures up all the other information I've assembled about Tabea. So I've listed out her characteristics, her behaviours, her aspirations, her frustrations and her fears, her wants, who she's influenced by, and what her preferred communication style is. I've also listed things that we both have in common, where she networks, and what her buying strategies are. So the things that we both have in common are important because in a cold calling or a situation where I might meet her for the first time, they will be the things that would be starting a conversation. Where she networks, so where do I have to go to find a Tabea? And of course, what her buying strategies are becomes important when we get to the point of making an offer. So once we have that information assembled, the next step then is to define the ideal audiences before and after. So considering the information we provide from an information marketing standpoint, the distance from before to after for the audience determines the value of that information to them. So we break this before and after down into a number of questions. So we say, how are they being before they have the information and then after the information? What do they do before they have the information and then after the information? What do they have before they have the information and what do they have after they have the information? And how do they feel before they have the information and then after the information? Now we summarize all of that together then as a statement of status of before and after. And our objective with this information that we provide our audience is to change their status for the better from before to after. That's our desired end result. And if we've done that, if we've made a dramatic change to their status for the better with that information, then it's exceptionally useful. Now, of course, this strategy is equally important if you're considering a product and you're selling a product or a service. So does your product match the wants and needs? Is it a good match for the wants and needs of your ideal client? Is your service a good match for the wants and needs? And again, if you've done this analysis, you'll be able to answer that question. Does the product or the service result in a big change from before to after? So really, do you know the value of your product or service to your ideal audience? So in summary then, think of content marketing and all that entails. So things like writing blog posts, publishing newsletters, building a website, doing a Facebook Live and other videos, and even every email you write. Think of it as information that you provide your audience, and that information should be exceptionally valuable to that audience. And really get to know your ideal audience and ideal customer. So go to the blog and download the templates. There's 2 of them there, the ideal customer profile and know your customers before and after. And after you've worked on those profiles, I'd really love you to actually share them with us here in the comments on the blog post. That'd be awesome if you do that. And there's a rule that goes with that, and that's for other people who see shared ideal client profiles or ideal audience profiles is to respect the ownership of that and respond with constructive suggestions. All right, so as I say, I'd really love to see some comments back to see whether you found this helpful and also what you've done with them. So finally, I did say I was going to provide more information on our magical First Fast Mastery Best Year Yet workshop retreat. So as I said, this is to help business owners design an awesome year for their business. The event is in May, at the end of May, and it will be in a wonderful tropical island paradise off Phuket in Thailand. So wouldn't you just like to be there for a little while? So in just 5 days there, we'll build a plan that will turbocharge our businesses with all the folks that join us and enable them to confidently predict and achieve those results for their next 12 months. So the focus is going to be on results. It is going to be on making goal setting and planning fun. And how could it not be fun in a splendid location like that? Now, it's a hands-on program, so we only want people there who are actually going to roll their sleeves up and work while having fun. It's developed and led by 5 masterful business owners who all have the power, the focus, the capability, and the drive to truly succeed. Now, I'm really excited to be working with 4 other awesome business owners on this project and looking forward to helping transform some other businesses in the coming year. So if you're interested and you want to find out more, email me directly or via the contact form on the website, or you can go directly to innovabiz.com.au/BYY2017. That's BYY for Best Year Yet, and the number's 2017 to find out more. Finally, I wanted to invite you to join a free webinar hosted by one of the business coaches coming to the event. Andrea Hendrickson from The Breakfast Coach on Wednesday next March 29 at 10 a.m. Melbourne time will be teaching us how to build a business plan that works. And there'll be a bonus there, the 5 extra hot principles to achieve simplicity with your one-page business plan. Now, I've had a sneak peek at this and it's going to be awesome. You can register for this webinar at innovabiz.com.au/BP17. That's BP17, innovabiz.com.au/BP17. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you find the ideal customer or audience templates useful. Let me know how you go working with them. I'd really like to hear back and see what you've done with them and find out what you find particularly helpful as well. All the show notes for this episode will be at innovabiz.com.au/68. That is the numbers 68, innovabiz.com.au/68. There you'll find the links and everything that we spoke about in this episode, including the links for registering for Andrea's webinar next week and the link for information on the Best Year Yet program in Thailand. Now, if you like this podcast and found the information valuable, I'd really love you to share it more widely so that we grow our audience, and particularly as we bring on new guests to interview in the podcast, it's really great to share the information that our guests share with us with a bigger audience. Now, of course, you can go over to iTunes or Stitcher, or if you prefer Pocket Casts, and subscribe on any of those apps so that you'll never miss a future episode. And while you're there, you might think about leaving us a review if you really like the podcast. Now, if there's anything that you want us to cover in future episodes, or questions you want answered, or indeed if you have a guest that you'd like to suggest that we get on the podcast, then please leave a comment in the blog post below this episode. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and remember, if you don't innovate, you stagnate. So think big, be adventurous, and keep innovating.